Looks like you got my invitation. Just you and me. Come on!
And we're back with another episode of our ongoing series of DC Rivals. A series where I imagine and design classic DC characters with that amazing Marvel Rivals art style. And thank you to you, my subscribers, for the amazing list of suggestions and positive feedback. Without you, I might have ended this series with just Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But the DC Universe deserves better, and so do we, as fans. So let's keep this series going, maybe inspire more artists to draw, and maybe in some small way, we help someone at Warner Games recognize the goldmine of characters that they're sitting on. Welcome back to my channel. As always, I'm Brad. I'm a professional illustrator and animator with over 20 years experience working in the industry. I'm also a lifelong comic book and video game nerd. So after playing Marvel Rivals and falling in love with that amazing art style, I thought, man, wouldn't DC characters look amazing in this style? And apparently you thought the same thing, as this is now the 5th video in this series. And so far we've looked at Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Black Canary, The Flash, and Green Lantern. And the goal of these videos is to give DC fans a hint of what their favorite characters could look like in a great game, but also to inspire and teach young artists and designers to draw more and share your work with the world. So let's get into the video, and today we're looking at some DC villains, and we're going to start with Deathstroke. Deathstroke has always been a Teen Titans villain, and he's evolved a lot since his early appearances when he looked like this. His modern designs look like this, which I think is awesome. I love this design. And he's even appeared in live action a few times. In Zack Snyder's Justice League, he appeared in the end credit scene with Lex Luthor, and this was his design. He looked like this. Not bad. I think this was inspired by his video game appearance in Arkham Origins. So we've got our reference and inspirations for our Deathstroke design, so let's get into our Rivals version. So I begin with a loose standing gestural pose, and now I'm going in with a cleaner pencil line to tighten up all the detail. Deathstroke is one of those characters where you can really overdo it on the accessories and added gadgets and stuff. So I'll give him his belts and pouches and gear, but I just don't want to overstuff him with detail. I definitely want to make sure he has his sword, but I want to also add like a high-tech gun. Something really big and imposing, just sort of resting it on his shoulder. I'm not quite happy with his head, so I want to rework it with another angle, and I'll just do that off to the side and find something that I like. I think this works, and now I'll just place it into position. So I'm happy with that, and the rest of his loose pencil roughs are pretty good, so I think I'll just go straight to ink and start cleaning this design up. And here's a closer look at the digital inking and cleanup process. A lot of the pencil lines in this design are still very loose, so I'm really finalizing most of the design in the inking stage as I'm going through it. As I was doing my research and reference design search for Deathstroke, I realized he's a lot more popular than I originally thought. He's turned up in two or three different video games, and in animation, he has been designed and animated several times for a variety of different projects. He even has his own DC animated movie called Deathstroke Knights and Dragons. I've seen every DC animated movie, but I actually never got around to seeing this one. Have you guys seen it? What'd you guys think? Is it worth a watch? Do you recommend it? Let me know in the comments. Back to the design here. Our cleanup lines are just about done, so I think it's time to start laying down some color flats. I'll choose my base colors, and then I'll create some color swatches off to the right, so I always have immediate reference to those colors. Deathstroke's original design colors were blue and orange, but I really like some of the live action versions of him and this darker look to him, so I've decided to go orange and different shades of black and gray. Deathstroke is one of those few characters where you can change his original base colors without losing the look and design of the character. If you tried to do the same with, say, Captain America by changing his blue to black, it just wouldn't work. Here I'm adding all my two tones and hard shadow lines everywhere on this character, just defining all his shapes and muscles. And these are really just darker tones of the original base colors that I've chosen. Ab armor. I like the design of these, and now I'll lay down the second tone just to give them a little shape and dimension as well. So, what's your favorite version of Deathstroke? Comic books, video games, the animation, that Titans live action show? What happened to that show? It had potential, but it lost me. Let me know your thoughts below. So here on screen, I'm softening all those hard edges, and I'm sort of reducing some of the black line work, kind of giving that like a more shadow tone and blending that in. As I've said before, these rivalized DC characters are more inspired by the game's loading screens or character screens, where we just have the character models standing and ready to be chosen. They're not intended to look like the 3D character models in game or the loose, rough conceptual design work we see with some of the added character artwork. And here I'm adding some small texture highlights to kind of give the impression that his suit has some reflective materials throughout it. And again, it helps to add some more dimension and life to his design. And now we'll get rid of that white background, add some airbrushing, and now it's time to add that signature Rivals rim light to his left side. And I'll go in close and I'll make that layer transparent so that I can erase any of the excess or line work that flows off of the character. You'll notice I've added a subtle hexagonal texture pattern to his arms and legs. And this is to sort of mimic his chainmail armor texture that he has in his comics and a lot of his designs. And that about does it. Our Deathstroke design is done. What do you think? Is he rivalized enough? I like him. I think he turned out pretty well. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And now that Deathstroke is done, it's time to move on to our next villain of the week.
It's all right, my darlings. I'm here now. My poor darlings. Yes, I know he's found us, but I won't let him hurt you. I'll kill him first.
Ivy, I know Dr. Young mutated these plants to produce venom.
Yes, and I heard it through the grapevine the evil woman paid the price.
I need you to help me create an antidote.
Why should I? Let Joker have his fun. I'll enjoy watching you squirm.
Poison Ivy, a classic Batman villain, with multiple incarnations and versions of her. I love this simple design from her show with Harley. But in the comics, she tends to look more like this. She's meant to be beautiful and sexy, and she uses her looks to seduce, poison, and control people, usually men. She's appeared in video games and multiple animation projects, but I believe there's only one live-action version of her, played by Uma Thurman. Not the best version of the character, but at least it's better than whatever this is. Nearly 10 years of development, hundreds of millions of dollars, and the game killed and buried itself within a week. Good job, Warner Games. But hey, Marvel Rivals was awesome, so let's pretend DC did that instead, and let's look at our rivalized version of Poison Ivy. So, as always, I'll begin by roughing out a loose pose, something that fits the character of Ivy, and I'll continue with scribbly, rough gesture drawings here, and looking for the right proportions and the right pose for her. I want this version of Ivy to be sexy, but also somewhat imposing and scary because, I mean, she's a villain. So maybe she's hovering off the ground a little bit, maybe being lifted by her vines. So I'm pretty happy with this rough pose, and I think I'm going to start cleaning this up with a loose pencil line, just to get more of the details nailed down before I go to ink. And now we'll get in a little closer, get a better look at her rough pencil lines, and I'll start laying down that digital ink line, and just let's clean this design up. And as I've mentioned in a previous video, the software I'm using to create these DC rival characters is Clip Studio Paint. And I'm using a Huion Canva 24-inch tablet screen to do all the artwork on. And I'll have a link in the description below if you want to try a free demo of Clip Studio Paint. I think it's amazing. I've been using it for years, and it's a lot more affordable than Photoshop. Design-wise, I thought it would be cool to give her a crown or tiara, sort of made of vines or plants, just weaved around. I've never seen anything like that for Ivy, so I thought it might be a cool, nice touch, something different. I also thought it might be cool if her hair had sort of a tree branch design, sort of with different, I don't know, vines or branches sort of flowing out of it. Just, again, something a little different. It's also somewhat in step with the Marvel Rivals subtle redesigns of their characters, just adding different motifs. And so we'll stick with that theme with Ivy and her hair. So let's speed through the rest of her ink lines here, and we'll just work our way from the top down. A lot of her character detail will come from her leafy costume, and then I want to add some cool vines and texture around her. And now her cleanup line is done, so I'm going to add a separate layer, and I want to add some extra vines sort of wrapping around her legs and arms, and I think that would look really cool. And now I'll start laying down the color flats for her. I think her skin should be green. I like the green skin look. I think she works really well with the green skin, especially with her red hair. The contrast is really cool. And now I'll add back those wrapping vines. I'll make those a darker shade of green, and I think that looks kind of cool. What do you guys think? So Poison Ivy was once a botanist, Dr. Pamela Lillian Isley, and then after a freak experiment, she was transformed into a plant-human hybrid with the ability to control plants, but also humans through her use of pheromones. And recently, she's been more of a anti-hero than a villain, so that's kind of cool. I didn't actually realize that. Pretty cool origin, I guess. And on screen, I'm going to continue to add the two tones and shadow areas to the character. And if you have any questions about my design process, software, or just art and drawing in general, leave a comment and let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can and help you out. Now back to Ivy. I'm wrapping up the blending of her shadow tones, and then I'm going to add the shadow areas to her hair. And I'll also get rid of those hard black lines throughout her hair, just blend it more, soften those edges. And I think we're getting close to being done. I'm just going to add that hard white rival style rim light to her left side, and we'll keep moving. So this is strictly my version of Ivy through the lens of a Marvel rival style. And like all of my DC rival designs, you might not agree with the choices that I've made. I hope people like what I'm doing on this series, but it's okay if they don't. And now I'll add a few more subtle changes to the design, and I think we're just about done. What do you think of our rivalized Poison Ivy? I altered her costume or lack of costume to be more of a tree motif. I felt like what I had originally was a little too close to her usual standard comic book design. So what do you think of our first DC Rivals villains? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you think they look rivalized enough? Let me know in the comments below. Next week, we're looking at the Joker and possibly Harley. And let me know in the poll on my YouTube main page, and let me know which Joker is your favorite. So if you like this channel and you like what I'm doing and you want me to continue to do this, please subscribe, hit that like button, and leave me some comments. All of those things really help the algorithm, and they help me to grow this channel. I'll have some high-res downloads for these characters available for a limited time on my Stan store. You can find a link for that below. And I think that's it. I will be back soon with more content, more DC characters. So all the best, and I will see you in the next one.